Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something deeply unsettling, yet absolutely vital to understand. We are exposing the hidden mechanics of relationship control, the pure psychology of manipulation. We're going to examine 7 specific, highly calculated tricks used by narcissists and manipulators to gain total power over a partner. So pay very close attention, because if even one of these dynamics feels familiar, you might be seeing the truth of your situation for the very first time.
The most dangerous place to be manipulated is inside a relationship. Now, why is that? Well, because out in the real world, you naturally have your guard up, right? If a stranger tries to control you, you push back immediately. But in a relationship, the threat isn't standing outside the gates. The threat is already inside the house with you.
Section 1. The danger of intimacy.
Let's talk about exactly why intimacy makes you so incredibly vulnerable to these dark psychological tactics. It really all comes down to the architecture of trust. When you enter a relationship, you do something fundamentally dangerous. You let your defenses down. You open yourself up. You voluntarily grant someone access to your deepest insecurities, your fears, and your hopes. You essentially hand over the keys to the parts of your mind that are the most easily damaged. And to a controller or a narcissist, that vulnerability isn't a bond to be cherished. It's a backdoor they can exploit to completely dismantle you from the inside out.
Section 2. Silence and manufactured dependency.
Let's begin our descent into these hidden mechanics. We're going to start with a pair of tactics that rely entirely on absence and isolation. They're quiet, they're painfully slow, and they are utterly devastating. Trick number 1 is the silent treatment. They just suddenly stop talking to you, and look, this isn't someone needing a few hours to cool off after a fight. This is a deliberate, prolonged withdrawal of connection. They look right through you. You literally become a ghost in your own home. They do this to punish you.
Silence is a weapon, and it is a deeply biological one at that. Studies in psychology actually show that this silent treatment activates the exact same neural pain pathways in your brain as a physical injury. Being ignored by someone you love triggers the same brain regions as being struck. The manipulator knows this. They withdraw connection to inflict pain. And when you finally break down, when you approach them and apologize just to make it stop, they learn that the silence worked, and they will absolutely use it again.
That brings us to trick number 5 from our source material, manufactured dependency. This is where they systematically strip away your outside sources of support. They might insist on handling all the finances because, they're better at it. They take over managing your social calendar. They subtly criticize your friends and family until you just stop seeing them. Step by step, they become your primary and eventually your only source of emotional and logistical support.
And the most terrifying part? The cage is invisible. Manufactured dependency masquerades as love. It looks like intense involvement. It looks like a partner who just wants to take care of you, someone who wants to be needed. But it is a trap, built so gradually and so carefully that by the time you finally feel the bars, you've been conditioned to believe you can no longer survive on the outside.
Section 3. The illusion of inadequacy. Let's shift our focus to how your own good intentions, your desire to just be a good partner, are actively weaponized against you. This is trick number 2, moving the goalposts. They tell you exactly what they need from you. You work hard, you adjust your behavior, you do everything they asked. But suddenly, it's not enough. The standard changes. They find a new flaw. So you do more, and guess what? The goalpost moves again. You become locked into a permanent state of striving, always running, but never crossing the finish line.
So here's the crucial point. You were never meant to cross that finish line. Reaching the standard was never the actual goal. Because if you ever reached it, you'd relax, you'd feel secure, you'd stop trying so incredibly hard. The controller moves the goalposts because the trying is what keeps your total, undivided focus on them. The trying itself is the control.
Section 4. Stealing your reality.
Now we enter the darkest territory of this explainer. These next tactics are the most insidious because they don't just attack your emotions, they distort your actual perception of reality and your core sense of self. Trick number 3 is triangulation. And I really want you to focus here because this is the one that most people completely miss. Triangulation is the clinical term for introducing a third party into a relationship dynamic just to destabilize you. They casually and repeatedly mention someone else, maybe an ex who's still hovering around, a coworker they admire a little too much, or a friend who just really understands them.
The absolute chilling truth of this tactic is this: the third person is not the threat. The triangulation itself is the threat. The manipulator deploys this with pinpoint precision, and the effect is immediate, isn't it? You stop focusing on your partner's toxic, controlling behavior, and instead you start scrambling to prove your own worth. You stop demanding respect, and you start competing to be chosen. Your clarity is entirely replaced by pure insecurity.
Next up is trick number 4, future faking. These are the empty promises they use to string you along. I promise I'll change. We're definitely going to move in together next year. Once work calms down, things will be different. They paint this beautiful, idyllic picture of a life together just over the horizon.
Future faking is basically using the promise of a beautiful, fictional future to force you to tolerate a miserable, unacceptable present. Listen, the manipulator has absolutely zero intention of changing. They are simply using promises as currency to buy more of your time. And every single time you accept that fake future instead of walking away from the painful reality of today, you teach them that their promises are a currency they never actually have to pay out.
Which leads us straight into trick number 6, identity erosion. This is the slowest burn of all. Step 1, your opinions start to sound exactly like their opinions. Step 2, your own preferences simply disappear, totally replaced by what they want. Step 3, your identity is completely erased. This doesn't happen through screaming or physical force. No, it happens through constant, subtle daily pressure, a slight criticism of the clothes you like, a casual dismissal of your favorite movie, until eventually you look in the mirror and you no longer know who you are outside of them. Leaving feels impossible because leaving feels like you would just cease to exist.
Section 5, the final trap, hoovering.
Just when you think you've figured it all out, just when you find the strength to step out of the dark, the final trap is sprung. Ask yourself this: what happens when you finally try to leave? You pack your bags, you draw a hard boundary, you look them in the eye and tell them it's over. You've finally found the courage to walk away, and what do? They don't let you go. Instead, they suddenly become everything you ever begged them to be.
This is trick number 7, hoovering. Named after the vacuum brand, it is the act of sucking someone back into a relationship they were desperately trying to escape. They appear totally changed, deeply, profoundly remorseful. The charming, loving person you fell for right at the very beginning is suddenly back. But hear this clearly: the timing is not accidental, and the transformation is not real. It's a calculated manipulation deployed exactly when you are at your most vulnerable. If you go back, it will not be different, because the person performing the hoovering is the exact same person who made leaving necessary in the first place.
Section 6, closing the archive.
We're bringing this descent into the mechanics of control to a close. Confronting these truths is incredibly painful, especially if you recognize these patterns in your own life right now. But this recognition isn't meant to break you, it's meant to arm you. These dark tricks work precisely because they exploit the very best parts of what makes us human. They weaponize your deep need for connection, your endless capacity for hope, and your beautiful willingness to believe that the person you love can be better. Realizing that someone is using your own empathy against you is a terrible, gut-wrenching moment, but knowing these tactics isn't cynicism, it is protection. Knowledge is the shield that stops the manipulation dead in its tracks.
You can't fight a trap you can't see, but now you can see them. If you found this explainer eye-opening, make sure to subscribe to The Dark Archive. Every week, we open a new file, diving deep into the psychology, manipulation, and the dark truths they certainly never taught you in school. The archive is open, but I'll leave you with this to ask yourself. Now that you can finally see the invisible cage around you, what are you going to do to break out?